Welcome to episode 7 of ShootNLoot and Outriders podcast. I am your host, Outrider Kev, and to my physical front is my co host, Rob the Man.
Hello, everybody.
If this is your first time, welcome as we delve deep into the news and everything that's ravaging planet Enox. You can find us here on youtube.com and follow us on our various social media channels, but we'll talk about that later. Let's dig into the latest news. Alright, so last time we talked about Outriders, they were working on the mitigation damage bug that has been taken care of. We know that you are no longer being one-shotted by the Brood Mother. Remember when that happened?
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. It was so much fun. Oh my god.
That happened to me like 12 times. It was great.
I really hated it. It was so annoying. I mean, I think during our CT runs, it wasn't as bad every time we had to fight against the Brood Mother, but I know when I was doing my solo CT runs.
Single player.
Exactly, and it always got me, and it was so annoying because I wasted so much time just getting up to that Brood Mother part.
Yeah. It was the one where you had to charge the obelisk.
Exactly, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that I hated because
it's a bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we're having some brand new news today. They are updating the game. They are giving us the appreciation package. We are going to get that today.
Hooray!
They're buffing a bunch of abilities for a lot of characters, which I think that's really cool. It's something that we needed. It is some of that game balance that people have been asking for since the game released. I think they waited to see how we're playing the game, see how people are using their abilities, and now that they have enough information, they're able to apply those damage buffs, or in this case, also buff our armor, because we also have an armor buff in order to make sure that we can, one, survive, because we've been just dying really constantly, and also be able to use skills that haven't been really been used before, or at least skills that kind of have fallen on the wayside because maybe because it hasn't had enough damage, or for whatever reason the utility hasn't been there, especially for expeditions.
Yeah, skills that maybe work during the game, but they don't work so well in the end game when you're doing the CT stuff. Because CT, as you mentioned last about 2 episodes ago, it was all damage. Everything is aimed at damage.
Right.
That's the way we were doing our CT runs. So having some of those neglected skills get beefed up a little bit, that's gonna bring them back into the fold. Some of the skills that maybe were rendered useless in the end game, So I think that's great.
No, yeah, definitely, because especially like I kind of mentioned to you, at least for me being a pyromancer and building up my explosive build, or doing my ash build, those type of builds.
Yeah.
There's definitely skills that you're not going to use because they just don't fall. They don't have a place in your build, or they just don't do enough damage, or maybe they slow things down. But you need something that does that and also does damage. Like if you only have a skill that only slows things down and it's not killing, it's a kind of a wasted slot when there's abilities where you can do both things.
Yeah.
Or have mods that help you do both things.
Right.
Either way, let's go ahead and talk about the appreciation package that they mentioned today. Go ahead, Rob, take it away.
Alrighty, so the community appreciation package is here, and everyone who's played Outriders to date will receive it. Your most experienced character has been granted a random god roll legendary weapon, which you have not previously obtained on any character. If your inventory is full, please check your stash for the legendary weapon. If both your inventory and your stash are full, the legendary weapon will appear when you free up an inventory slot and restart the game. If you have already previously found all weapons, your character will be granted the rarest weapon for their class. A note is if you receive a duplicate weapon, please sit tight. Developers are working into this as a matter of urgency. You'll be getting extra titanium based on your character's level, and a new emote, Frustration, which I deem appropriate, has been unlocked for all your characters. I think that's funny because that's where this game has me right now. A game restart may be required for it to appear. So yeah, that's the community appreciation package that we've been promised since launched.
Perfect. So, how long has it been? It's almost been 2 months since the game came out, because I know it came out
a little over 2 months,
right? Because it came out late April. Man, I already forgot. Time
no,
flies
it
by
came
so
out
fast.
April 1st.
April 1st.
April 1st is when it came out. The demo came out late March or mid March.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. Okay, so it's been about 2 months now,
Yeah,
a little bit more, but yeah, pretty much 2 months.
yeah,
And we finally got the appreciation package because of all the server issues that we had at launch,
right.
some of the gear disappearing, all the bugs that pretty much the game has
Oh yeah,
been having to deal with since launch, right?
yeah,
And slowly but surely they've been able to fix every single bug along the way, while also doing some balance patches, some rebalancing of certain abilities, or
yeah.
fixing damage mitigation bugs, especially with the
Right.
brood mother and things like that, right?
That brood mother and the riflemen. The riflemen were
Rifleman,
pieces of crap. They were
right?
killing us with one shot. They were doing more damage than the captains for a minute. So it's nice that they made them back. They
Just a
brought them back
sniper,
down.
sniper bullet time. Remember with the snipers?
Right.
So they give you more time before they shoot you.
That's what I meant. I meant the snipers, not the riflemen.
I still feel like the riflemen really like kill you, not one shot you, but they do a lot of damage for being just really basic bitches, right? I feel like sometimes
Basic bitches.
sometimes I'm finding 4 captains having no issue, right?
Hmm.
And then I come up to like 3 regular riflemen grunts, and they mow me down. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah, that screen starts to turn red really fast
Really
sometimes with
fast.
people you're not expecting.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
well, either way, I'm glad they're giving us this appreciation package.
That's
I'm
nice.
glad that it's a god roll, just like when they return everyone's, not return, but, when they give everyone their legends that they had lost.
Right.
We all got the god roll versions of those legendaries. And I'm glad that you're getting another god roll, and it's something that you don't have. And if it is something that you already have, for I guess the 1% of people that have every single item,
Right.
they're getting the most rarest version of the hardest weapon to get and the god roll of that weapon,
That's great.
right? Which is
Yeah.
not too bad. And we're also getting titanium, and we're getting the emote, which is so funny. The
The
emote that we're
emote
getting.
is very appropriate.
Does that mean that we're gonna get more emotes as the game progresses? Like, I know this is not true games as a service. Like, we know
Right.
that it's not gonna be like something that's gonna be constantly being added to every month or every week. But do you think we're gonna get like, hey, here's a small microtransaction package. We can get these 5 emotes for like $5.
I don't think there's anything stopping them from doing that. I think that it's definitely something that's on the table. Based on based on what's laid out already.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be a microtransaction or it's going to be something that just shows up in your inventory the way they've been doing things. While there are bugs, as another game that we play that we won't mention, but while there are bugs, you should not be asking for more money from your player base while you're still fixing the game. You know what I mean?
Especially
That's
when you advertise this as a complete package.
as a completed game, yes.
Yeah. Which
So-
again, I grant them that this game
Yeah.
does feel complete, more feature complete
It absolutely does.
than most of the games we've played. Especially
Yeah.
again, the game that should not be named.
The game that should not be named.
I'm glad that we're getting this appreciation package. It's a welcome change, a welcome package for us to be able to see. I can't wait to
Yeah.
log into the game, see what we got, and then start running some couple of CT runs.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that they've done a lot of changes, especially some balance changes on their end, let's go ahead and talk about that.
All right.
Okay, so balancing. Here I'm going to go ahead and read, again, Rob read the news for the appreciation package. You can read that on the Outriders subreddit. Here is the balancing changes that are happening to the game. Today's changes focus primarily on buffing underused skills and improving player survivability via armor rebalancing. This is only the initial first pass based on the mass player data that we're seeing with our analytics. If something has not been mentioned here, do not fret. Work is already underway for upcoming balance passes, which will look at other topics of focus, including legendary drop distribution, which is, again, a welcome change. I know we were talking about before we started the podcast that we're hitting CT 7 to 9, like around that range. We're still kind of like a little bit stuck.
Mhm.
We did stop playing, like altogether, because
Yeah, we put it down.
we put it down. Like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't fun. We weren't having that same fun that we were experiencing, leveling up our characters, getting to the end game, things like that.
Right.
It was frustrating having to go solo, and keep
Yeah.
dying over and over. It was more fun when we got to play together.
We were able to get golds.
We were able to get golds now. Now we're seeing a small trickle of golds,
Yeah.
which is good. But we haven't gotten golds that necessarily give us a better build.
So it may be premature for me to ask this question, but right here it says work is already underway for upcoming balance passes, which we'll look at other topic of focus, including legendary drop distribution. Is that being applied to the percentage of possible legendary drop? Is that how that's being addressed?
I think they are addressing that, the percentage of what you're gonna get
is increasing per tier,
well,
per
does
CT.
it does increase per CT at level at CT 15. You have a 25% chance for each one of those 4 epic drops to be a legendary. That's pretty good. 1 out of 4. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Because right now I think we're doing like 2.5%, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that some legendaries drop more often than other sets. Like
I see.
which is the cannonball set, the most infamous set in Outriders that everyone
Yeah.
hates. You know,
Yeah. It's really derpy.
yeah, it has abilities that you don't need, and that's not going to help you as a trickster, and it's not going to help me as a pyromancer at all.
Yeah.
But again, like the cannonball,
it's useful titanium.
Which again, like that's not unheard of in a lot of games. Like there's some legendary weapons that drop more often than others, and some legendary weapons that are more rare, right? They're the ones that you're coveted. Those are the ones you want to chase.
Yes.
The problem is that the randomized nature of the game. You can do 1,000 runs. Will you get one? Yes or no? Or how often would you get it? You know?
Right.
Because you want to make sure that you're getting a good build. And we haven't run the CTs enough to be able to test it. But I know the last couple times we ran a couple CTs, I did get some useful, armors.
So did I.
For certain sets, but I don't have a complete set yet of any armor.
I don't either.
I have like 1-2 pieces of each set, but not the full thing to be able to make use of that 3-set skill.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think once we have one set of legendary pieces, then we'll see our damage jump up. Because again, at least for the explosive set, I forgot what the name of the explosive set is for the pyromancer. It increases the explosion skill that I have by 40%. That's a lot.
That's huge.
Because my explosion, at least right now, does almost 1 to 2 million damage every time it's activated.
Jeez.
So 40% more on top of that, I'll be able to hit CT 10 and 213. I want to.
Is it 1 or 2 million damage per person that you're hitting, or total?
That's a little harder. That's a little hard to know because at least at the end of the CT run, when we get the damage report.
Right.
That's
what it. Okay, so it's just total points.
Exactly.
Total points of damage.
So imagine the amount I do times 40% more damage of that.
Yeah.
Because of that item ability for that set.
Yeah.
And remember, each one of those pieces comes with a tier 3 mod too. So that will also increase your damage as well, depending what type of mod you get.
Right. Yeah, man. Those I still haven't had enough pieces to make a legendary build that's viable. I think I have 3 legendary components in my armor, but the others are still what is the purple?
Epics.
Epic. So yeah. I'm still rocking purple gear.
Yeah, me too.
I'm trying.
I only have the cowboy hat. I always forget the name of it, but that's the one that lets me increase more firearms damage, right?
Right.
When I'm at close range.
Okay.
Good for now, but again, not towards the build what I'm doing. I need fire damage.
And it's not a build. It's a piece that boosts. It's not like a build. Same thing with the little Russian hat that I have.
Right.
It's not part of a build. It's just a piece.
It's just a piece.
Yeah, and it seems like it's almost more aesthetic than anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I do like the aesthetics.
Of course. It's fun.
So after that, they were also saying that we are also aware that the time expeditions remain of a point of contention regarding balancing, and that they are a fundamental problem for many players as their time nature can drive too heavily to DPS-focused meta. Addressing the root cause of this issue is something that will take a longer time. This is not something we will be able to address as part of the immediate upcoming patches, but we are working on the issue and are continuing to look into what is feasible in the long term. So again, they're aware of the community's, complaints about what we've been having with the.
They're listening.
They're listening to expeditions. We know that, again, like if you're not killing, it's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting health for your armor pieces, it's not worth it because again, you're trading survivability for damage, and in this game where everything's so heavily damaged.
Yeah.
If you're not killing, you're wasting time, and if you're wasting time, you're not getting those CT runs to the max efficiency. And again, they want to make sure that you can have survivability builds, but I think they didn't anticipate these changes because expeditions being time-based was totally 100% the development plan for this game, right?
Yeah.
CTs were going to be time-based. It was something that hadn't been done in other... Well, I don't want to say it hadn't been done, but other shooter-looters don't have time-based modes, but they're not the only mode.
Right.
You know,
Right.
a lot of it's really like almost horde mode stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna beat waves, you're gonna beat a huge boss. It's gonna be tough as shit, but if you do it, here's all the rewards, right?
Yeah.
This is the same thing, except it's time based, and it kind of sucks because if you don't hit the time, if you die too much, or even again playing solo, if you die once, you have to go all the way back again.
I think the timeline that says the gold, silver, and bronze, and the fact that the clock is running up.
Right.
You don't. There should be a clock from gold, a gold clock counting down. You know what I mean? To zero. Aside from the timeline.
Right.
Because the clock is coming up, and in each CT, or in each not each CT, but in each expedition, there's like in each expedition, it's a different time based on the size of the expedition. So gold is a different bracket. To get the gold, it changes from level to level, from expedition to expedition.
Right.
So there's no way of knowing that if you're unless you've played the expedition a million times before, there's no way of knowing how to manage your time. As far as like
some I have noticed how to manage your time because there's some expeditions you do over and over because they come up so often. You kind of know the flow of that, where you need to know where to hurry up or where are the best spots to to funnel them, right?
Sure.
But you're right.
Like if it's 11 minutes, put 11 minutes down, next to the thing. Instead of counting up to 11, put 11 minutes right over the gold part, and then let me see it go down to zero, so I know if I gotta hurry up, I gotta slow down, I got time to heal, I got time to, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't like the idea that I don't know how much time I have until it's over. You know what I'm saying? Until it's silver. I don't like that.
I mean,
that's
I kind of agree with you. Like we see the time, it goes.
You
up,
see it, yeah.
But you kind of wish you had more. Not more. It's bullshit that time is being counted for things that shouldn't be going against you, like the cutscenes.
Cutscene time is annoying.
Because there's a good 20 seconds in some of those cutscenes that could be, running, killing, going to the next objective.
Yeah, yeah. And there's times where you miss a gold, and you miss it by less than you miss it by less time than the cutscene.
Exactly.
Like if the cutscene's 20 seconds, you miss the gold by 5.
Exactly. Like
I missed the gold by 3.
How many times did we miss a gold by 10 seconds?
Yeah.
And that was one of the cutscenes right there.
Cutscenes 15, 16 seconds, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, it needs tweaking, but overall it's still fun, but it definitely needs some attention.
But again, like you said, like we completely stopped playing because it just wasn't fun for us at the moment. But with these changes, maybe we're gonna jump back in now that they have buffed some abilities and they're giving us more health and armor to be able to deal with higher CTs.
Yeah.
Let me go into some of the balance notes here.
Sure.
Health on armor. Health available on armor pieces have been greatly increased and rebalanced. It is now possible to effectively double a character health by using certain gear pieces. Previously, investing into improving your health was not providing enough value, a value gain, right? This change will make it easier to build a greater health pool and survive longer. Again, part of what they said is that they're looking at the whole DPS heavy meta, right? Which everyone, if you're not killing, it's a waste of time. They want to make health and armor abilities useful. And they want to make them strong enough. So that way, if you want to make a tanky build, you can, but it won't go against you for going down that route.
Yeah. It limits the versatility of the build, and that was one of the strengths of this game. That it wasn't all damage. It wasn't all, you can work on survivability. You can work on, different things, and you can work on ammo, wasting less ammo every time whatever. Having all that stuff the way it was in the CTs, it kind of limited your options, and I feel like that took a strength away from the game.
Especially when playing the game and just leveling up your characters, you got to experiment with so many different weapons and different abilities. It was fun, right?
Yeah.
And
that was one of the funnest parts.
Yeah, and then suddenly, okay, get in line. You have to do exactly what we say because otherwise you're not going to be able to reach to the end game.
Exactly.
It kind of takes, again, and that happens in any game, Destiny, Borderlands, right? There's always builds that are always going to rise to the top. Like the cream of the crop, these are always going to be the best builds. Yeah. But then you have your B level tiers and then your C level tiers, right? Like it gives you more fun and versatility.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe I don't want to go a pyro build. Maybe I want to go gun damage with ash build. Things like that. Or a magma armor build. Or support build.
A lot of my time abilities as a trickster, they were traps that I would set to bottleneck enemies, to prep them essentially for you and Shay
Right.
to come in and wipe them all out because you guys were the damaged ones, the ones that were set up, had your damage all the way jacked up. It was a transition. Like there was a thing where I had to redo my build, and then noticing that all the builds are the same essentially. Everything's damage based.
Everything gets funneled down to
Yeah.
like a certain play style.
It takes some of the fun away from it.
It does,
Yeah.
and I think they noticed that they're going to address it.
Yeah.
I think there's only something you can do once the game is out there and people
then-
have enough time, and again, like they mentioned, they have the analytics of what people are doing, and then they can go ahead and adjust the game based on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Devastator. Here's some Devastator changes. Reflect bullets. Reflect bullets base damage has been increased by 250%. This buff will help players better deal with smaller mobs, but efficiently killing elites will still require the use of other skills as well.
Right.
Sounds cool. You can reflect bullets, kill all the smaller guys, but it's not going to necessarily help you with the elites, which makes sense. Again,
Sure.
reflect bullets are more of a defensive build. Impale, the region granted by Impale Square has been increased by 50%. The range of Vlad's Grasp mod has been increased by 100%. So if you notice, a lot of abilities are getting buffs, and their mods for those abilities are, in this case, a lot of tier 3 mods, right?
Yeah.
That enhance those abilities are also being increased, which is great. You want more damage. They're giving some love to, like they mentioned in the beginning of the balance notes here, underused skills.
Right. Some of the skills that were rendered useless by the end game content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was using, here's the next balance change for the Pyromancer, the Phaser Beam. I love that ability when we were playing the main story.
Yes.
I just love knowing, hey,
Yes.
this is my big fucking Kamehameha ability, right? I don't use it in endgame at all. You know why? Waste time, doesn't do enough damage. I need something that hits and goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would take a long, it's a long charge to do that ability. So now they're also giving that some love as well.
Is there any cooldown?
Yes, there's
cooldown
that one has a
to it?
large cooldown too.
Okay.
So you're saying like,
Is there one that maybe gives you 2 in the chamber for that one?
no, not for that one.
Okay.
There are for other ones. I know the
Yeah.
volcano build, the heat wave. There's a lot of builds that gives you.
the slice for the
There's a
trickster.
tier 3 mod where you can get the heat wave 3 times.
That sounds great.
I can get it once, twice with regular mods, and then the tier 3 mod lets me have it up to 3 times
third
for
time.
just for the heat wave, constant heat
That's
waves.
awesome.
And heat wave to me is one of my. I know when we talked the last time on the podcast was that it wasn't the most used ability for Pyromancer. Actually, Ash Blast was. I use heat wave constantly. I've always used heat wave. I've never stopped using heat wave. It's like I feel like it's my crutch skill. I don't know,
Yeah. The bullets got there for me.
Right.
The time bullets.
The phaser beam base damage has been increased by 100%. Phaser beam's FPF has been set to 2.1. FPF, which is I think status control or status effect, controls how much the phaser beam skill benefits from status power attribute. Status power is like burn, anything like that. This change effectively means that the damage of phaser beam may well be doubled and then some. Though the effectiveness of this improvement still depends on the character's status power attribute. Again, if you have a build, at least for me, as a Pyromancer, if you have a lot of burn damage, that will increase the damage for the phaser beam.
But you have to keep your eye on the attributes as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like because you could go more anomaly, you can go more firepower, you can go more status effects.
Okay.
Volcanic armor mod damage reduction has been increased by 65% for both anomaly and physical damage. So that ability is every time you keep enemies burning, if everyone has a burn status effect, you gain armor.
Okay.
So what this is going to do, if I have that defensive ability, it's going to let me survive more against anomaly powers, meaning the captains that use their anomaly powers, right? I'll take 65% less damage and also physical damage, meaning whenever you get bullet damage to you or when they're hitting you physically.
Okay.
So that's at least one mod that got increased. So I did have that mod before. I remember when we were having the damage mitigation issues to see if that would help me. It didn't help me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I took it off. I may put it back now because they buffed it. So it might give me more survivability. If I have one piece of armor that has that mod, that should be enough. You know?
Yeah.
Technomancer got the Tool of Destruction. The RPG summoned by Tool of Destruction has had its base damage increased by 66%. The RPG summoned by Tools of Destruction has had its first fall off reduced and minimum range increased by 50%. the tool destruction, you can summon two abilities. You can summon a chain gun and an RPG. Obviously, chain gun, more bullets, more damage, sustain damage. RPG is one shot, big damage, right?
Yeah.
Burst damage.
Yeah.
There was a limited range for the RPG rocket. So if you shot it at an enemy far away, it would blow up before it got there.
That is ridiculous. That sounds annoying.
Right. Again, I know the ability because I've been leveling up my Technomancer not recently, right? But when we were taking a break between CT runs, I would level up my Technomancer.
Technomancer, yeah.
And I would go for the RPG. Like if you're up close, it's fine. But then when you're trying to shoot someone from far away, like let's say for example a sniper. Hey, I have a rocket. Let me shoot that sniper all the way the fuck over there.
Yeah.
Guess what? The rocket exploded before you even got there because there's a range limit.
That's annoying, man.
That is a little annoying.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why.
That's not even how RPGs work.
Like yeah, like why is there a range or a range
Yeah.
limit when I can literally shoot the sniper bullet if I had a sniper to that sniper over there?
Yeah.
But whatever, at least they increased it, so you should be able to effectively use it better now. The base damage dealt by Demolition Man. I love that mod. Just the name of it because of the movie.
Yeah.
The base damage dealt by Demolition Man mod has been increased by 65%. These changes will help players one-shot riflemen while also putting massive dents into shotgunners and berserkers. Great. Fixing Wave. The healing provided by Fixing Wave has been increased by 65%. So, again, like I mentioned, Technomasters, they've always been more of a supporting class.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be able to heal, their supporting players. Cold Snap. The armor reduction dealt by Frostbite mod has been increased by 100%. Just like the Molten Armor mod, it increases, damage reduction for Technomancers. Because again, I know Tricksters are squishy, but like it feels like Pyromancers are like I feel like the squishiness goes Trickster, Pyromancer, Technomancer, and then Devastators.
Okay.
At least when it comes to taking damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freeze Turret. Oh, sorry. The base damage by Ice Baby mod has been increased by 300%.
Ooh.
These changes will allow players to have an extra go away mob skill and will combine well with the following Freeze Turret change. Freeze Turret.
Right.
The duration of Freeze Turret has been increased to 30 units, previously 20. This should increase turret's health by 50% and prolong its life. So again, they seem to have a lot of fixes for Technomasters. They kind of need a little bit more love. So they got changes in the buffs to their Tools of Destruction skill, the Healing Fixie Wave skill, Cold Snap, and Freeze Turret.
Okay.
Things that control the battlefield.
Now we're on the Trickster.
Now, Trickster got Bottle Time. The base damage dealt by the Aggressive Teleportation mod has been increased by 111%. This needed a significant boost to make it more worthy of legendary status.
Good point.
Hunt the Prey. The base damage dealt by Backstabber mod has been increased by 100%. So double the damage.
Yeah.
Temporal Slice. The base damage dealt by the Strong Slice mod has been increased by 71%.
That's cool, man. I have that mod on my build right now.
So there you go. There you have it. Those are all the balance changes that have been applied today. And if you play the game, you don't need to download a patch. It's already been applied to the game. I don't remember if they mentioned it was a hotfix, but it is something that's being done server side.
You might have to restart the game in the console for it to take effect. That's what they said.
Well, for the appreciation pack.
For the appreciation package.
Yeah.
Or for the this is already going to show up next time you fire it up.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So those abilities are going to be buffed. You don't have to download a patch. At least they do have a patch coming up next week. They mentioned on the notes, but at least for these changes in the appreciation pack, if you didn't get your package, restart the game, make inventory space. But for the damage abilities and the changes for the buffs for these abilities, that's already good to go.
That's already in there. All right, cool.
So what do you think of the changes?
I think that this is the type of stuff that this is the type of stuff a game needs.
Right.
You know what I mean? You go through it, you monitor. They have all this analytic information, all this analytic data. Of how the game's being played. I'm sure they know which mods, all that stuff that they gave us last time. How many guys, how much damage has been given by all the players in total. Remember the stats that we read off a few episodes ago? So they have all of that data and then some. So I think it's cool that they're putting that data to use to create a more balanced game, so that you don't have one class outclassing the others. You know what I mean? Like, so you have multiple. You can balance them out and have variety and what's the word? Diversity in your fire squads and your fire teams. I feel like it got a little samey.
Yeah.
In the last month or so, it just got a little monotonous. So this is good news because then we can go back, reevaluate our builds, change the builds a little bit to be
Get
a
some
little
more
bit.
pieces. Hopefully, get some better legendaries that
Yeah,
will
yeah,
let's experiment with this. I'm
exactly.
down to put the volcanic armor mod now. Now that it gives
Yeah,
you more survivability, maybe that'll help me push CT 8 and 9 better.
yeah.
I won't be dying so constantly anymore.
And now that that same thing with the temporal slice, like now that it has the mod that's increased by 71%, it's I had the mod that gave me 2 in the chamber for that one.
Right.
And I took it off for firepower to get another piece that gave me more firepower. Now I'm probably gonna put the 2 in the chamber mod for the temporal blade back in. Now that the damage is increased by 71% or to 71%.
Right.
Oh, by 71%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that again, all this stuff as I'm hearing you read this stuff, as I'm following along, it's like, yeah, this is stuff that's applicable to I think giving the game the variety that it's lacking at this point.
Right. And again, like I said, they're still monitoring the situation. They're still looking at how people are playing the game. Hopefully, they'll be able to address some of the expedition legendary status,
And continue to fine tune.
drop rates, fine tune the game, like you mentioned. And hopefully they'll take a look on how is it that expeditions are going to be run. Because again, I think expeditions are a great idea, and the time-based aspect does set it apart from other games.
Yeah.
That is unique to it. That is something I haven't experienced before. At least, I mean, that is something that's unique to Outriders, where you get, you're trying to strive for the gold, right? You're going for that gold medal,
It's about blitzing it's about blitzing the area. It's killing everybody as quickly as you possibly can.
The problem with expeditions is that that's the only thing.
Exactly.
There's not enough variety. I kind of wish they had a horde mode where, hey, you can also get armor and abilities or legendary weapons in this other mode as well, in complement with the expeditions too.
Or like what? I don't understand what's stopping them from introducing a game mode that is the opposite. Instead of running it quickly, maybe a mode that continues to throw enemies at you at increasing difficulties.
Yeah, horde mode.
Like horde mode, but to see how long you can last.
Right, exactly.
To last as long.
Survival mode.
Survival mode, yeah. Something like that would be awesome too.
There's this great mode that I want to say happened in Division 1, the first division, where you land with 6 other players on this ice map, right? Like a frozen New York. And you have to beat the map before you freeze to death. And you only start off with a pistol.
Nice.
And you have to find items, gear, and more weapons around the area before you freeze to death. And the closer you get to the objective, the harder the enemies get.
Yeah.
And you have to do it before a certain time frame.
That sounds cool.
Imagine again. I would love a mode like that. Where let's say, hey, Outriders, you land on this expedition. Let's just take for example, right? And you only have one gun, and and as you're killing enemies, you pick up whatever random equipment you have.
Yeah.
And try to beat the level, and then when you beat it, you'll get legendary weapons for your regular runs.
That'd be cool. So essentially, you don't have your build. You're just going off of your armor stats.
Exactly.
And your handgun stats, and then the 2 rifles that you pick up are picked up there. So
and then that could be random too. Like, hey, maybe on that run you picked up some really good weapons and some good armor. Next run you didn't, and then you keep trying your luck.
Yeah. That sounds really interesting. Having something that kind of clips your wings a little bit, and not, you don't have your entire build, but you can work up to it by performing well.
Right. And again, there's lots of ways you can do this. Even just adding just more expeditions. I just want more variety when it comes to the time-based stuff.
Yeah.
Or if I'm playing solo, give me an extra revive at least, since I'm not playing with people.
That's when you need it.
Yeah.
That's I don't understand why they give you an extra one when you have a teammate, but when you don't have a teammate, they take it away from you.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
There's nothing more frustrating than getting to that third room and dying, and you just wasted your time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just feels really bad because you don't get that time back. Like, I get it. You're playing the game. You're supposed to be having fun, but that just doesn't feel rewarding. It just feels bad.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And again, it's not that the game should just be showering you with gifts, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like you should be able to get some investment back for the time you're putting in.
Of course. It got to a point where it wasn't worth it to spend an hour on running the CTs to get maybe 1 gold, you know, to
Right.
get one legendary, 2 legendary,
Or just getting silver. And again, I
Yeah.
don't know if silver drops legend. I don't think it does, right?
If it does, it's greatly reduced.
Hmm.
Like the percentage of the possible outcome of getting a legendary it's greatly reduced, I think.
So hopefully we'll see what Outriders does. It's still exciting that they're still working on the game. I'm excited to get back into Outriders now that they, buffed some abilities, increased our damage mitigation, so we're gonna have more health.
Yeah.
Increase our armor ability, so magma armor is gonna sound cool. I want to put that back on,
Yeah.
see how the game is increasing, and hopefully try a couple CT runs by myself, and then we'll run some together and see how that feels now.
I miss it. I genuinely
I
miss
really
it.
do,
But
yes.
it was just at the point where I'm like, this is not rewarding at all.
I needed a break because I just felt like I just kept banging my head against the wall.
That's what it felt like.
And in Diablo, I've had that feeling in Diablo where you're running, you're trying to get to the higher tiers, but I don't know, something about Diablo, it didn't feel as punishing, I guess.
Yeah.
Where like, yeah, you'll do a lot of runs that night, get a couple pieces, get a little bit, inch a little bit forward to the next level, right? This one didn't feel like that. It just felt like, no, you're just stuck.
At times it felt like it was worse. At times you'd play it and then it would just feel like I did worse this time than I did last week, and it was just like, I think I'm good. There's a problem here that's not my playing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true. Well, either way, I'm glad to see what Outriders does. Let's go ahead in a little bit. It is E3 week. We're starting to get some new announcements being shown by Xbox and things like that. I wanted to talk about, Xbox and Game Pass since, Outriders was introduced to us through Game Pass. Xbox players who paid for Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate got Outriders for free, right?
Yeah.
And again, I always believe that I really bought into the vision. I am buying into the vision that Xbox has a better game plan this generation than last generation, right? When Don Magic was in control of the Xbox ecosystem, head of Xbox, his idea was to make Xbox the one to go for TV, everything, right?
yeah.
Game secondary, and obviously we know how that went. We don't have to rehash old grounds. Xbox lost footing in the console war, right?
Yeah.
And PlayStation just dominated by just dunking on them. Again, let's not rehash it.
Season after season.
Season after season. Xbox had no games. We know that. But now they're putting all the chips on the table, all the acquisitions, all the deals they've been making while waiting for next gen to come up.
Yeah.
This is the time where I think we're going to see big changes for Xbox. And then, like I mentioned before, when I've never been a person that cares about a brand, right?
Right.
I always go where the games are at, or whoever has the better connection when it comes to. Not the better connection, but whoever has the better plan or the vision that I want to buy into, right?
Right.
Whether if it's PlayStation, Nintendo, who has the games and who has what I want to invest my money into.
Yeah.
And there'll be consoles that I'll play more often, right? During the PS2, Xbox, GameCube era, I played way more on my PS2, and that kind of spoke for itself. That was the dominant console in the market.
Absolutely.
Then I played more, and then the second console I played was the GameCube, because God, how many thousands of hours I poured into Smash Brothers, Resident Evil 4, things like that, right? Yeah. And then lastly, I played the most on Xbox, because my friend had Halo, KOTOR, games like that. But again, it always went PlayStation, GameCube, Xbox, right?
Yeah.
Second generation that came out after that, it was the 360 era, the PS3, the Wii era, right?
Yeah.
360 killed it during that era. PS3 eventually caught up to that market share, but again,
But it took 5 years.
It took it a couple of years to get to that level, because again, they were arrogant. They were coming off the success and the high of the PS2, and like, oh, remember that infamous quote, like, oh, why don't you just get a second job to buy a PS3?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Exactly.
That's fucked up.
Right, exactly. But then Xbox did the same thing with the Xbox One, where like, oh, like, this is your all entertainment center thing. We're like, where are the games? We're gamers. Why are you advertising TV and in sports?
But at least they weren't calling you a chump. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least they didn't go, "Hey, chump, why don't you get a second job?"
But as a person who was never like, I didn't really care, but I read the tea leaves, like the console that's always gonna be more dominant gets more deals, better games, better exclusivity deals, like Call of Duty, where like Call of Duty would come out first on Xbox 360. And the PS4, Xbox One generation, Call of Duty came out first on PS4 or exclusive DLC.
That's true. Yeah.
Because you want to go with the dominant console because they're gonna get better deals, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but like I have no allegiance. So like, even though you and everyone else was on Xbox, I jumped ship and I went on with my PS4.
But I don't, I don't buy Xbox because I'm like a cheerleader for it. It's just there's titles on it that I've been following for years.
And there's nothing
And
wrong with that.
yeah, but I don't. I'm not like it's a pendulum that swings.
Right.
Anytime you have two dominant companies that have this back and forth the way Microsoft and Sony have when it comes to consoles. It's just what you're gonna see every time a product comes in. One's gonna gain footing, then the next one's gonna see what they did wrong, readjust. It's like a boxing fight, In between rounds, if you think that every round is a console generation, you know what I mean? And they're going there and they see what they did, they readjust, they read the tea leaves, as you say, they read what their opponent is doing, they reset and go again. So it seems like that we're just getting another pendulum swinging. PS2 was a little cocky when they went into PS3. Microsoft was cocky when they went into Xbox One.
Yeah.
Now you see their acquisition of Bethesda. You see, them bringing back some of the titles that they have. The way
investing and buying up several studios. Studios.
And the way they're using Game Pass as a tool that PlayStation does not have.
No. They don't have an answer to that.
They don't.
They're going with very different strategies. Like we mentioned a couple podcasts ago, where PlayStation's investing in the high budget. You're gonna pay $70 for this game.
Blockbusters.
Because it is a blockbuster.
Yeah,
we have Last of Us. We have Horizon Zero Dawn. We have God of War. We have the games, right?
The Uncharted series.
Xbox is going the other way. We're a subscription service. Not only do you get games that you wouldn't have even played before. And that's one metric that has been touted for a lot of people who have Game Pass, is that 40% of gamers who have Game Pass try games in other genres that they wouldn't otherwise have put money for. And again, that expands you. Like, imagine, like, I've been a person who always likes a lot of different genre of games, right? I've been super nerdy. I'll play like rhythm games, strategy games, sports games, anything. Yeah. I just want to try it because I love games, right?
Yeah.
But there's people that I know that like, all they ever play is just Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying?
Shooters.
That's it.
Totally.
And sometimes they'll never go outside of their comfort zone. And Game Pass allows you to go outside your comfort zone and try things you would never have tried before.
Puzzle games, side scrollers.
And you might fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Game Pass, that allows you to do that.
One of my favorite experiences gaming recently, aside from the Untitled Goose Game. When I say recently, I'm talking about the last 2 years maybe. Was playing some of it was an 8-bit title. What was it? The Messenger.
Yeah.
It was such a Genesis title. You know what I mean? It just reminded me of like Sega at the height of Genesis, and it was just a great game to play. And I would have never paid money for that. You know what I mean? Like, if I would have seen it, seen the screenshots, seen the trailers, read the reviews, I would have never played it, simply because it's just not something I thought was worth the money. It being on Game Pass, I picked it up without a second thought, played it through, and it was a great experience. It was fun.
Smaller games, like indie games, right? Smaller games like that. I always had a hard time putting money down because I never know if I really wanted to put that $20 towards it.
Always a gamble.
But over the years, indie games have gotten to a certain level of quality where, like, you know what? There are some amazing indie games that are experimenting things that you're not going to see from the big guys, because they're going to be more risk averse. They're going to go with what they know already. And the experimentation, the fun, or even just some of the weird ideas are being done on the indie level, which, as a person who likes to play video games, I love it when people get weird with the games, because then they make up these crazy games that you would have never thought of.
Or even games that maybe slipped you by. Like, recently I started playing Brutal Legend. The Jack Black game that came out like 10 years ago. I wanted to play it when it came out. I started playing it when it came out on Game Pass last month, and I was having a blast, man. I played the demo when it first came out, and I just never bought it.
Yeah.
And it was on my list. Tim Schafer, he's great. But again, it's games, sometimes even the games that passed you by. I didn't get on Mass Effect. I'm definitely getting on Mass Effect now.
I hope you do, because that's a great series. It's going to take a while to beat it, but it's a great series. I love Mass Effect.
That's all I hear. Like, everyone that's played it, it's positive.
It's because they built a world out of nothing. You gotta think about it. It's not based on a comic book series.
On an IP or nothing.
It's not based on an existing IP. They made an entire sci-fi world, right?
Yeah.
That is on the level of Star Wars. You have several races and giant lore and political gains. You understand each race's place in that galaxy and how they contribute to the overall whole, right? again, to build something that massive takes time, and they did it with 3 games, and it was amazing, right? Again, they made like again, almost as big as Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
If I would say even bigger than Star Wars in some cases.
You're
at least
talking
for
about how expansive the universe is,
They-
not the reaction of people.
exactly, expansive the universe is in that game.
Right, right.
But again, it makes you feel like this is a living world
Yeah.
that they put a lot of care into.
Yeah, no, that's that, and from the outcomes to like the conversations to, you know what I mean, to the affairs you can have, all of that stuff. It's all cool shit. So like I want to get into that. If it wasn't on Game Pass, if it wasn't on Game Pass, what the hell am I thinking? I probably wouldn't have gone back. And it's on Game Pass. Let's be real, because they're gearing up to doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're gonna make another one within the next 2 years. You know?
Definitely, especially we got hints on it of it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, talking about Game Pass, it's pre E3. There is some news that came out of what Xbox strategy is. Now I want to go ahead and read this article and just follow up with some of the things that they've been saying lately from the Xbox leadership. That you can read this article on WindowsCentral.com if you want to go ahead and give it a view there. Written by Jess Corden. Ahead of Microsoft's big E3 2021 Xbox showcase, which is now Xbox and Bethesda.
Ooh.
Which, because there was no E3 last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID happened. But the year before that, it was Xbox's own conference, and then Bethesda, before they had been bought out, had their own conference as well of their games, right? Now they're combining both of them. That's kind of cool.
That's really cool.
That's a big powerhouse move. I can't even. It's hard to think that we're here, because a couple years ago that wouldn't seem likely. That Xbox bought Bethesda. They bought an entire company
that
had its own slate of games.
That's like Disney acquiring Marvel or Lucasfilms. Like
it's one of those big
level, yeah.
Exactly. It's one of those big shaker moves.
It's one of those moves that's going to benefit both parties. Hopefully, it's going to benefit both parties equally.
Especially because Bethesda has always made a lot of American. I mean, it has a lot of American developers, and of course, Xbox is always going to be America's American game company, right?
Yeah.
Like Sony, like if Sony bought Square-Enix, that makes sense. Square-Enix is a giant Japanese developer with hundreds of games under their belt,
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be able to afford. I don't think Sony could ever afford buying Square-Enix. Square-Enix is like fucking, making gangbusters out there.
They've been at it since the 80s too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
They've been at it from the 80s, raking, hand over fist with Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Still going strong to this day. Sure, Marvel Avengers didn't perform as well, but they're not lacking games. Final Fantasy 16 is coming out soon.
Yeah.
Well, not soon, but Final Fantasy 16 is announced. They have a ton of games slated. They own Tomb Raider. They used to own Hitman. They own the Deus Ex Machina games. They have Life is Strange. So many gaming titles that are just huge.
And how many titles do you hear a 16 at the end of? You know what I mean? Like how many franchises get up to 16? We got to Halo 5 and now we're questioning the validity of Halo going into the future. It's like that number has got to count for something.
And then they also own Dragon Quest, one of the biggest RPGs in the Japanese market, next to Final Fantasy. They used to be competing Japanese role-playing games before.
I remember that.
It was Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. You were either a fan of one or both, and they were competing companies. Guess what? They're the same company now. If they're killing gangbusters with Final Fantasy 15, they're also making gangbusters with Dragon Quest 11. Yeah. Imagine that shit.
Yeah, they're making money off the rival.
Exactly.
That's great.
Okay, ahead of Xbox E3 2021 Xbox Showcase, the company shared some updates on its roadmap for the Xbox platform, with press and analysis, including ourselves, giving us some insight in where Xbox is headed. Microsoft has seen a recording record growth for Xbox, with quarterly revenue and profits hitting all-time highs, often on the back of Xbox Game Pass. The description isn't where the story ends, though. In data shared with an analyst, Microsoft painted a picture of a service that seems to have no real downside, with boosted retail spending, engagement, and more gaming time hours for devs investing in the service. Microsoft also gave some hints for future growth, and including streaming devices and new regions, while emphasizing that the company still has work to do. And that's something that I've also heard several times from even smaller indie devs, where, hey, Xbox gives them this money, guaranteed money, right? Because remember, like, when you make a game, you have to sell it, and obviously it can go either you sold really well, record profits, you sold enough to continue to fund the next project, or you undersold, and that kind of sucks when you're undersold.
Of course.
This is guaranteed money. Xbox is paying these developers for their games. Like, here's a pot of the pie, and we're gonna give you this guaranteed money. We're buying your game,
Yeah.
and whatever you make on it is extra.
Because they don't have to move units.
Exactly.
So since they don't have to move units, that cuts distribution costs, that cuts fabrication costs. It cuts all this stuff, and all they need to do is to get people to subscribe. So what they need are titles. They don't need, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So because of that, the developers, they just get paid for their game, whether it's good or not. Let's be frank.
And then people who play those games for free on Xbox spread the
Yeah.
word of mouth. Hey, have you tried this game? It's fucking amazing.
It's on
They'll
Game
buy
Pass.
it. It's on Game Pass, or they'll buy it for their console,
That's true.
and they get that money too.
The DLC is where they get you. The paid DLC. I'm telling you, there's a lot of games where I own DLC to because I played them on Game Pass, and I don't mind. The title was free. You know, I wanted to play more of it, so you get the DLC, and then you keep going, and you got more content. But then the game gets off Game Pass, and then now you just have content that you paid for that you can't access.
That's such a weird concept though when you think about it. Of
It
like,
is.
how is it that a game that's free on Game Pass helps sell that game even more off of Game Pass?
Exposure.
It's like saying like, hey, Stranger Things on Netflix helps sell more Netflix titles on DVD. You almost never hear that, and I don't even think it happens.
It does happen. It did
Okay.
happen with, I believe, I might be full of shit, but I think it happened with Orange is the New Black. I might be getting my wires crossed with something else. It was either Orange is the New Black or House of Cards,
Okay.
where their DVD sales, like the fact that it was on Netflix, you don't need DVDs, but people were buying the show for loved ones who didn't watch
Half Netflix
Exactly.
for the few people that didn't have it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we'll hear more about Microsoft's future Xbox lineups looks like after E3 2021 on June 13th. But here's the meat on Xbox Game Pass and Xbox as a platform from Microsoft's perspective. As you might expect, Xbox Game Pass was very central to Microsoft's message for growth, although Xbox head Phil Spencer said during the presentation that consoles and PCs will always be and forever have a place at the heart of Xbox's mission. Microsoft's Liz Hamren, CVP for Gaming Experience and Platforms, reiterated that indeed Xbox consoles remain the flagship experience, meaning that they're not going to give up making consoles, because there was a rumor that if Xbox goes as a service, they'll stop making the box, right?
Yeah.
They're still, at least for now, again, it's a company. Things can change in trajectories. If Xbox takes off to the point where like they don't even need to make the console, again, it's a company. They're gonna make money. They're gonna cut the fucking console away, right?
Yeah, if they could cut
Or
costs,
they
they
may
will.
not. What if they will want to double dip? Like, hey, we're gonna make a console for the ones that want it. You know,
Yeah.
that's always a possibility.
Buying games as gifts is such a huge market where parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts and friends and cousins buy games for their loved ones who are game fans.
Right.
So I don't think a console is ever going to fall by the wayside completely.
No.
You know what I mean? Because you can't really buy a game for someone if everything was streaming. You can't gift a game. You can't, you know what I mean? And I think that's such a huge market, especially for parents that have kids, especially when you're talking about the holidays and things like that.
You gotta share games, things like that.
I don't think they're thinking about that. I think they're trying to reduce that.
Okay.
I think like if I was a company, I'd want to reduce that. You know, I'd want to get paid for every time someone gets it. But yeah, continue, man. My bad.
The message ultimately explained that Xbox Game Pass is simply another option, targeting gamers who perhaps can't afford to spend money outright on every piece of software, every big hardware upgrade, and so on. Spencer used arcades of ages past as a discovery mechanism and sees Xbox Game Pass in much the same way. Microsoft offers some updates on how Game Pass members' habits differ from non-subscribers. Over 90% of the 18 million plus members of Xbox Game Pass note that they played games that they would have never tried without Xbox Game Pass. Again, like we talked about, Game Pass allows you to try things you would normally not try in your comfort zone because there is no risk involved. You're already paying for it.
And 90%'s a big motherfucking number, man.
Right.
It's a big number, you know?
Almost a third straight into new genres, and 40% play more games than average. And I think that's kind of true because I don't know if you ever read this statistic, but a lot of people don't finish games. I don't know if you ever heard that.
No, but I've lived it.
There's a huge, I forgot what the number is. I'm sorry, it's not off the top of my head.
Sure.
But it's like I want to say 2/3 of the audience never
Yeah.
never see the end game, or never see credits roll on the game they purchased. So there, and sometimes you'll have people whose games that sell 20 million copies, 2/3 of those don't ever finish the game ever,
Wow.
but they bought the copy.
Yeah.
Again, I think we all have busy lives. Some games really hit with you, some don't, and it really depends on your budget. Like, I know growing up in the 90s and 2000s, right? Games weren't as big or expensive as they are now. You could beat a game sometimes in a day.
Yeah.
Back then,
Yeah.
now imagine how much time would take you to beat an Assassin's Creed today. You're talking about almost a month or two worth of non-stop playing to see every single thing that game offers you, and they're selling DLC on top of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oof.
So I believe that people are not finishing games today because there's a little bit of bloat. Like, let's be honest. Like, there's a lot of missions that could be cut off to like better the experience, in my opinion. Like, The Witcher has great missions where like you want to do the side quests, right, to see all those storylines. Assassin's Creed has some side quests, but not everyone's golden. I would rather have them trim the fat so that way the experience is a lot better.
I guess so. The overall experience is a little bit more streamlined.
Like more tight in,
Yeah.
Because there's some sometimes more polished.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's bullshit fetch quests. They're just
Yeah.
go kill 5 pigs or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need those. Give me something that has meat on the bone.
Yeah. That was my problem with Dead Space. I felt like you were just an errand boy. And it's like, these motherfuckers are trying to kill me, man.
Microsoft noted that games see anywhere up to and above 8 times more engagement once they enter Game Pass. Crucially, Xbox Game Pass members spend 50% more on DLC and game purchases than non-members, taking advantage of the exclusive Xbox Game Pass retail discount. Before the game leaves Xbox Game Pass, you can buy it with a 20% discount.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, you could always wait for even steeper discounts, especially like around New Year's, Christmas. There's always some deep discounts. Right now, E3, they're having a huge sale of 500 games that are deeply discounted, in celebration of E3. But even, let's say if there's no sale that time and that game's about to leave, at least you get 20% off. That's something,
Yeah.
Microsoft also shared that EA Play games have seen record usage since joining Xbox Game Pass, driving hours played in the EA Vault titles by more than 200%, reaching millions of new players. And I want to know how much of that is Jedi Fallen Order.
I know, right?
Or is it the Madden games? Because I'll be honest with you,
Battlefront,
UFC,
the UFC games,
FIFA. I'm pretty sure lots of people playing FIFA.
Far Cry,
Mm-hmm.
the Far Cry titles that they have on.
Far Cry is Ubisoft.
Is that Ubisoft?
Yeah,
My
it seems
bad.
that.
I was thinking it was what were you saying? Oh, EA.
Yeah, Battlefield.
There's nothing on EA.
Battlefield.
Oh yeah, I'm getting it mixed up with the the Ubisoft club.
Yeah,
my bad.
that's okay. But again, they have a lot of titles. Like, I would never buy a sports game myself because they make them yearly. They don't change they don't change much.
Right.
But I did download the last Madden that they have available. Again, I don't know the difference between this year's Madden versus last year's Madden, right? To me, they all look the same.
Yeah.
But I like playing as the Rams.
Yeah, of course. Their fight night games are fun. There's like an Xbox 360 fight night, and I'll still play it once in a while.
Here's another tidbit that ties into the podcast. Despite being on Xbox Game Pass on day one, Outriders still became the #1 selling digital game on Xbox during its launch week and remained in the top 10 for the month of April. MLB The Show 21 became an overnight hit on Xbox Game Pass, becoming the biggest sports game of all of 2021 and the second biggest sports game of all time on Xbox.
Jesus.
MLB The Show took home the crown for best-selling digital game on Xbox for the month of April too. Despite being on Xbox Game Pass, Microsoft also noted that Xbox Game Pass helps drive sales on Steam and on the Epic Games Store. Again, like you said, just the exposure, the word of mouth, just these things being on Game Pass help drive sales elsewhere because people are all playing it at the same time. You want to be part of that zeitgeist moment and be in that moment, because sometimes that moment will come and go. Like, Outriders had its moment, right? Like, all the people who were playing those first couple weeks are pretty much, most of them are gone now. I want to say that most people who are playing now, like you and me, are people who are more dedicated to not dedicated to the game, but the ones that stuck around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because, again, like they said, some games are like you'll have 1 or 2 good weekends with your friends, and then you'll move on to something else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still think it might be early to call on that one, but I'm seeing that, like, the Game Pass thing probably wouldn't have come to fruition had it not been for them letting their gut hang out after the success of the 360.
Right.
You know, loosen up the belt a little bit and kind of trying to not trying to rest on the laurels, but resting on their laurels, thinking that our reputation on 360 is going to carry over to the one. Right?
I'm just seeing that repeated right now with the PS5. To be honest with you,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was talking about, the pendulum swinging, where
Yeah.
where they, you know, they say necessity is the mother of creativity. The Game Pass is for games. It is a creative model.
Mm-hmm.
But if these are the numbers and the proof is in the pudding, this might become the norm. That might become the industry norm.
Yeah, when
the future,
just like how Fortnite changed the game, changed the gaming landscape, is Xbox
battle royales and stuff. Yeah,
is Xbox's subscription model going to change the landscape again? Like, is this
Right.
what's going to push Sony to respond, make
Yeah.
them make PlayStation now more of a viable product?
Well, this is going to be the generation where we see if Sony creates a counterpart to the Game Pass, or if Microsoft is gonna abandon that model. I think we're gonna see that in this generation.
And Sony has been getting into hot water recently because a lot of stuff came out from the Days Gone game. Remember that game?
Yeah.
They're not getting a sequel. That team was put on another project to make a different IP because that game didn't sell to expectations. They're
Right.
on the blockbuster mentality. So if it's not a blockbuster, move on. And they're all about sequels right now. They had, sorry, I think it was, there's a studio, I forgot the name of the studio. They wanted to make their own game, but Sony wouldn't let them. So they told them, remake Last of Us 1 again, but with PS5 graphics. But I'm like, you're gonna double dip on Last of Us 1? It's not that old. It literally isn't that old. It was just one generation ago, which is the same issue I have with Mass Effect, right? Where it doesn't feel that old, but Mass Effect is older than Last of Us, definitely.
I think it's time for Mass Effect. If we got
No,
the anniversary of Halo in 10 years, I think it's time for Mass
No,
Effect. to
definitely.
get
But
remastered.
at least when it comes to The Last of Us, it just shows that Sony is they're getting that mentality again, where we're just making sequels. We're making remasters of the games we've already made.
They're making remasters of remasters.
Exactly.
That's a little.
And
like
like
a trip
Days
to the
Gone
ATM.
wasn't a bad game. Make the second one amazing. You already know where you failed. Improve on it.
Titanfall.
Why are you dropping it?
Titanfall, Assassin's Creed, Destiny. These are all games that really came to their own in the sequel.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's something that you're kind of like, if it's not giving you the results you want, you're not setting out to make a good game. You're setting out to make a blockbuster. And if it's not what you expected it to be, you're gonna clip and not give it time to develop into some cultural phenomenon that our games come in part 2 or part 3.
And some of the games that some of the Xbox studios are working on are weird ass games because again they're going for we want something for everyone. Which who has that model? Netflix.
Yeah.
They have something for everyone, and they put a lot of money into those genres. Even Paramount Plus, or not, sorry, it might be Paramount Plus, but one of the CEOs had mentioned that if they don't care about getting the most money, but they want that niche audiences. That if you attract the niche audiences, you maintain your high active monthly subscriber base, and that's guaranteed money. If you keep them, that's guaranteed profit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will, subscribe from 1 month and then unsubscribe the next month to watch the show that they wanted, right?
There's value in loyalty, though. So, I mean, for a company, a loyal subscriber base or a loyal consumer base, that's like you don't build that overnight,
right?
So that there could be something to that, knowing how much of the pie goes to you.
And I don't blame Sony for going the way that they're doing right now, because again, they are the kings of the hill now, right now, at this moment. But I'm thinking that slowly and surely, these things are gonna topple that mountain eventually. Again, because Microsoft's hungry, and PlayStation's playing more. They're just playing safe. Yeah. And we know what happens when you play it safe. Then the rug gets pulled from under you.
It was. I feel like it was like this when Nintendo and Sega were going at it in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was it's a pendulum that swing. It didn't go on for this long, but I think since the first Xbox came out, you're seeing it's just going to swing in both directions, I think.
Right.
It's just one's going to do something good, the other one's going to have to adapt. And in response to that, The other one's gonna do it, in a vacuum. It's gonna do. The other developer is gonna have to fill the vacuum that's been left behind by the success of the competitor.
Let me get back to the article.
Sure.
Some of these facts Microsoft recently shared behind closed doors with its partners on Game Stack Live in April, but the new figures for Outriders and MLB The Show truly evidence the fact that Xbox Game Pass isn't replacing traditional game sales, but driving them. Similarly to how retail services might create a virality of word-of-mouth marketing effect. I can speak from experience that recently I found myself playing Dragon Quest XI purely because of Xbox Game Pass. I later bought the game outright and found myself buying merch for it on Amazon. It reminds me of renting games from Blockbuster as a kid with the view of buying to own later if the games were if the games were things I ended up enjoying, which again makes sense, right? Like,
Great.
And I have my story when it comes to that too. Do you have that game back in your childhood where, like, you know what, I'm gonna be playing games forever? Because I feel like, okay, let me start with my story and I'll let you think about that. I used to rent games at 2020 videos. I remember when 2020 videos were around. If you know what that is, before games and movies used to be rented at a local store, right?
Yeah.
You pay a monthly rental fee, depending on the deal, right? You could rent it for a day, a week, whatever, depending on the store's, depending on the store's policy, right? So you rent these movies, rent games, right, and play them at home. I remember being 90-year-old kid, 90s kid, right? Getting my my $5, go pick up a Super Nintendo cartridge of a new game or something, right? Playing the Marvel Spider-Man game on Super Nintendo, playing the Mortal Kombat games on PlayStation, things like that. But when I was a kid,
right? Maximum Carnage.
And when I was a kid, these games felt like toys, right?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like games became a hobby or games were going to be a lifetime thing for me. And I know when it happened. When I rented a small game called Final Fantasy 9. Final Fantasy 9 was on PlayStation and it had 4 discs. And this blew my, maybe 11-year-old mind? 10? I don't remember how old I was when I got my PlayStation. But I was like, wow, this game has 4 discs. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, every game I had rented up to that point was just a 1-disc game.
Yeah.
And I never understood what it meant, right? I didn't have a memory card, so I couldn't save games. I would just play them and then try to get as far as I could the next time around because I didn't have a save file.
I remember those days,
right?
Man.
Because I couldn't convince my parents to buy me a memory card. I need this thing to keep playing games.
Yeah.
So then I kept renting Final Fantasy 9 and I realized this game was a story with characters in the world. And that's when I realized games can be so much more than just fun, cheap entertainment.
It's a storytelling medium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when I fell in love with games. And then that's when I bought my memory card so I can play Final Fantasy 9 and led to me buying pretty much almost every single Final Fantasy in the franchise.
But if you look at that right there, where if you look at the games that are hitting it biggest right now in the last 10 years, let's say, it's all story based. It's when the narrative is good, when the narrative is engaging, people are even willing to forgive clunky mechanics if the story is engaging.
Destiny.
yeah. But Destiny, there's clunky mechanics in the structure of the game, yes.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the actual playability of Destiny has always been like
spot on. No, yeah.
Butter smooth.
Playing Destiny has always been perfect.
It's
so
butter.
Good.
It's just smooth like butter. That's what I felt like. The mechanics are so good. The setup of the game, the way the game is set up, the way the interface is set up, that's where it needed work,
And like they mentioned in this article, like everyone starts from somewhere, and Xbox Game Pass allows you to do that. It lets you try games. And lets you discover new things, right? Yeah. How many people who used to only play like a couple of games now have Xbox Game Pass and they're like, shit, I love JRPGs. I love puzzle games now. I want to play more of these.
If it wasn't for Game Pass, I wouldn't have been picking up games. Like I played more games through the COVID shutdown than I have in the last 5 years.
If it wasn't for Game Pass, we wouldn't have tried Second Extinction. I don't think so.
Thank you, Game Pass.
Yeah,
we're just sucking Game Passes.
I mean, no, but it's true though. Like that was an awesome experience. Like, dude, like this is Left 4 Dead but with dinosaurs, and I'm having a blast. Yeah. Guess what? I fucking love Left 4 Dead.
It's Turok, Left 4 Dead, and Dino Crisis all rolled up into one.
No, that's always a problem I've had too. Like, there's not enough dinosaur games. But anyways, that's for another topic.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there soon.
But anyways, so they're reinvesting their money into Game Pass. They're saying that they want to put Game Pass on multiple devices. If you don't have a console, that's fine. Here, we're going to put Xbox Game Pass on your TV, on your phone, on your tablet,
Right.
You just need a controller. That's all you need, and then subscribe to the service.
But at that point, then it asks, then that's when the question comes in of like, then what's the deal with the console?
Well, they said that there's still gonna be a flagship product,
But why?
but because they want it for the enthusiasts.
If they could have Game Pass in like a peripheral thing, in like a small Roku type of thing, you know what I'm talking about? And if they could have the entire Game Pass catalog,
It just like anything, you have a console for the pristine experience. If you want like the OG, not the OG, but the maximum enjoyment. Like if you want to play maximum performance,
Gotcha.
like if you want to play the games with the best graphics and settings, you're gonna buy an expensive ass PC, right?
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
But that's what Xbox is trying to do, at least for the console side. Because at the end of the day, when you look at Series X, $500 to get a PC of that decent amount of graphics, you're easily gonna spend $1,000 or more.
Really?
Because again, Xbox, a lot of consoles are subsidized.
Yeah.
They're sold at a loss because of all the hardware that they put in it. Right. If you want to make a PC that can run as good as an Xbox, you're not gonna get a better deal than $500. You cannot make a PC for the same amount of money that you would get the performance out of an Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
And that's always gonna be true, no matter whether PC people want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
Consoles give you that ability. Of course, sure. The Series X eventually is going to be 5-6 years old, right? And eventually, the parts to make a PC to match it will get cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And then you can do it. But as of right now, you cannot make a PC that's as good as Xbox for the same price.
Gotcha.
So in PCs was going to be always a high-end luxury item. If your family can afford it, they'll buy you a gaming PC. I know a lot of people who has sons and daughters. They'll buy them a gaming PC, but they have money, or that's all they ever wanted, and they just scrimp and save until they can buy them that gaming PC. But not everyone has that luxury, right? Mm-hmm. Some people, the console is going to be the cheaper option. It's going to be that. But let's say, like they mentioned, what if you don't have a console? Then just buy the dongle, download the app. All you need to buy is a $60 controller. Mm-hmm. You have access to all of Game Pass.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. That's very Nintendo-y.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to be everywhere in your face. Like, I don't want to be like 90s, like, we want to be in your face. But they do want to be everywhere. And I understand that mentality, especially with tech companies right now, is they want to be in everyone's pocket. Literally in everyone's pocket.
Yeah.
Like one pocket in your phone, one pocket on your wallet, right?
But giving up that control, though, of putting those games on a subscription console or a subscription service, that right there is, if that's boosting sales, mm-hmm. They gave up that control a little bit and said, okay, we're gonna give you the content. You pay a subscription, we're gonna give you the content, and then you decide.
Yeah,
it's letting people. We've been done dirty by the developers for years now. From different developers who, I understand things don't always go as planned, but there's been times where you spend a lot of money on games that are not worth it.
That come out shit.
It's
Cyberpunk.
Not fun. Yeah. It's not fun. It's not rewarding. It's not. And Game Pass gives. I am a fan of Outriders. You know what I mean? It's not a perfect game. I've gotten frustrated with it, but because it's on Game Pass and because they're on top of their shit, and they're dealing with it. This is still a positive experience. Had I paid the $60 or $70 for Outriders and dealt with all of this stuff, it wouldn't have been a positive experience. Mm-hmm. The fact that it was on Game Pass, it still keeps its positive. It's like watching a movie. It's like sneaking into the movie theater.
Right.
It's hard to say the movie sucks when you watch the movie for free.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of.
We do not condone sneaking into movie theater, and that is a risk that you would have to take. Yeah. Just want to throw that out there.
That is stealing. Piracy is stealing. Don't forget. No, but
you wouldn't steal a car, would you? Remember those commercials?
Why would you steal a movie, bro? No, but yeah, I think that's a great model, man. It's a cool model.
Yeah. Again, I'm excited to see what Xbox announces to C3. I can only hope to wait, see what they have. Do they have Fable in the chamber? We're definitely getting Halo. We're gonna have a big Halo showcase.
Mass Effect. Is there any news from Mass Effect?
Is there any news from Mass Effect? What's Bethesda doing? Are they making the new Wolfenstein 3 that has been rumored? Are we gonna see Starlink, their big sci-fi RPG that's on the same side as Fallout and Skyrim? Like, we're gonna see Starlink this year?
Yeah.
Who knows, right? But
it's been in the can for about 5 years.
It's been in the can for a while now. You know what I'm saying? Like, are we gonna see it this year? Who knows? But either way, all of that is exciting, and it's exciting that we know that, hey, Starting may come out this year, may come out in 2 or 3 years, right? We're still gonna get it because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's great.
So whether if it sucks or not, we'll find out.
Yeah.
And we don't have to put any investment. We're already paying into the service.
And if you're letting people that are paying into the service be your testers, you know what I mean? Because some of these games are so complex that you can't have just a group of 25 testers. You know, you need thousands of people playing,
which I think
to
kind
get
of
an accurate sample.
Which I think kind of feel like works in the favor of games like Second Extinction. That's a game preview game. It's a game in beta.
Yeah.
But guess what? A lot of people are playing it through Game Pass because they want to try it out. They want to see it, and then they're going to see on their end how people are engaging with the game and where they can do their improvements or some of their updates.
I think Outriders is there too, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It's in that same vein. They're following that same trajectory, and I think that could be a cure to some of the things that we were running into as far as being given incomplete games and all that jazz.
Microsoft reiterated that Bethesda games will hit Xbox Game Pass day one going forward, alongside continuing investment in first-party studios. Microsoft will offer more details on exactly what those games will be on their June 13th Xbox showcase, streamed on Twitch, YouTube, and other platforms. Microsoft's mission is also to grow the audience beyond the console user base, which Microsoft considers to be limited to around 250 million households. Limited, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, a small piece of the 3 billion strong electronic gaming pie. To that end, Microsoft revealed that they're working on new hardware and services that won't come to life for many years, including streaming devices that will eliminate the need for a full-blown console. This sounds similar to the canceled Project Cobalt device of yesteryear, but it could also infer handheld devices like the Surface Duo or something else. I've heard sporadic rumors for years that Microsoft has dabbled with handheld prototypes, and perhaps we could see a cloud-based Switch competitor emerge someday. I certainly think Microsoft should make an Xbox handheld anyway. Beyond their own devices, Microsoft confirmed that it is working with global TV manufacturers to build web apps directly into smart televisions with direct connectivity for Xbox controllers. Microsoft is also exploring new tiers and other subscription models for Xbox Game Pass to meet different types of consumers. I previously argued Microsoft should make a Game Pass cloud-only tier, the light version, for those who don't want to buy a console or PC. Again, they just want to reach as many houses, as many devices, as many markets that they can around the world.
Yeah. They want to be in people's pockets, like you said. That's
yeah.
great.
Thank you for joining us on episode 7, and we hope to hear from you soon. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and follow us on Instagram, ShootNLoot Outriders, Twitter at ShootNLootOP, and on TikTok, ShootNLoot Outriders, to be notified of new episodes. Now go fuck shit up, Outriders.
Bye, everybody. See you episode 8.